Just make him to nuke in the dirtiest way. That's all. Hello YouTube, it's Dragon Turtle with the Raid Shadow Legends video. We're going to go ahead and look at the new champions and see what's going on. First up we have Denig. He's got kind of an interesting look to him. This is different. You know, he's got, are these short legs or long legs? I can't really tell. But he's just got a real interesting look, kind of basic. I do like the boar on the shield. That's a cool little insignia. And then the boar in the helmet. Yeah, you know, kind of basic mace. But he's rare, so I imagine he's not supposed to stand out like crazy. Let's read the passive. Places a shield buff on this champion for 2 turns equal to 10% of this champion's max HP when hit by an enemy under a provoked debuff. Wait, let me adjust my mic. There we go, adjust my mic a little bit. Alright, so when under a provoked debuff, interesting. I mean, that's okay. It happens. It's max HP and he's a defense champ. Void is nice. I don't know how much HP I'm going to be building on him to really take advantage of that. Now he has this attack all enemies, strengthen on all allies for 2 turns. I mean, that's solid. Based off the books, damage, I imagine that he's supposed to smack. I just get that vibe from him looking at all these damage stats. Although, when we look at his base stats, I don't see improved crit damage or anything. And his defense, I mean, that's not huge defense. It's like, alright, but that's not huge defense. Speed 95. Okay, let's look at the A1. Attacks 1 enemy, 30% chance to place a provoked debuff for 1 turn. Again, mainly damage books. So I have a feeling that you're supposed to build him to smack, which means you're not going to get a whole lot out of that passive. I wouldn't think. Maybe, maybe not. The way that I would build him is I would probably build him in 4-piece provoke set and then 2-piece cruel to get some ignore defense, and just build him for damage with enough accuracy to land his provoke. I think in a provoke set, this will make the passive occur far more often, and I don't see him as your main nuker on the team. So I think if he doesn't have Savage on or Merciless, I think he'll be okay in the provoke set. I think that's going to work out just fine. Next we have Signy. She kind of has the same look as Denig. Like, I don't know, there's a tone here going on between both of them. Now she's an HP champ. I already looked at her kit. I don't like it. I'm just gonna give you guys the heads up on that one. I think it's rather weak, but let's look at it. The passive, when this champion is under a reflect damage buff, an enemy attempts to place a debuff. Let me read that again. When this champion is under a reflect damage buff and an enemy attempts to place a debuff, has a 20% chance to reflect the debuff back onto the attacker. So 20% is not dependable. You can't really depend on this like for Bommel. Reflect damage has been weak for a long time now, not really something to invest in. Places 50% increased res buff and 30% reflect damage buff on all allies for 2 turns. First of all, increased res is pretty much useless. If I build a champion with enough resistance, I build them with enough resistance. I don't usually look for their resistance to reach where it needs to be through a buff. I think that's not good planning. Reflect damage is pretty much useless once again everywhere except maybe Fire Knight. On Fire Knight, you can reflect damage and get more hits on the shield. I think that's how that works, but not something you typically want to invest in. And there's no hit on this, so no damage. 4-turn cooldown for a skill that's almost useless. I might just turn this skill off. A2 attacks all enemies. First of all, I'm seeing these buff debuff chances in the books, meaning I don't expect this to smack particularly hard. Before attacking, has a 75% chance of removing one debuff, books to 100, so it removes a debuff, and it removes a buff from all the enemies. One buff, one debuff, 3-turn cooldown. Okay, I mean, there's better. There are champs that completely strip it all. There are way better epics. I don't know why I would build this epic just for that. Maybe if she smacks super hard, but I doubt it. Looking at these books, looking at her stats, I doubt it. Although that's a nice amount of HP, a nice amount of defense. So not too bad, but not amazing. Attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 25% chance of placing a decreased resistance debuff for 2 turns. That is probably the best ability on her kit. Decreased resistance is actually useful. Sometimes you'll build a nuker with low accuracy, like they don't have a lot of accuracy, so if you decrease the resistance on the enemy, then your nuker can sometimes lay their debuffs as well. Decreased resistance is useful. Each hit also heals this champion by 20% of the damage inflicted. Okay, Signy, you stay alive, but what good are you? Like, what are you gonna do? Now we're getting to the big boys. This dude, first of all, look at that sword. This dude looks like a beast. This is my most wanted champ right now. This guy is crazy, okay? Vulkanos humor? All right, he's defense-based, legendary. He's a unity champion, so he's got 2 auras. Increased ally defense in all battles, increased ally speed in all battles. Only applies to Demon Spawn, which is his faction. This is pretty basic unity stuff. Unity champs typically have 2 abilities just like this. So I wouldn't say there's anything special about this, but it's still good. The passive. Whenever an enemy receives a buff, sorry guys, I want to pause really quickly. So I'm on this thing now where I start reading the skills backwards. Usually content creators read from front to back, like A1, A2, A3 passive. But I'm in this phase where a lot of times it makes more sense to read it back to front. Because a lot of times the A1 will have interaction with the passive, the A3 will have interaction with the passive. So I want to know what the passive is first, which is activated by the rest of those abilities. We'll try it out. Maybe it'll be good, maybe it'll be bad. I don't know, but I'm trying it for this video. So we have the passive. Whenever an enemy receives a buff or has their turn meter increased, right away that says arena to me. Buffs, turn meter increase. Has a 50% chance to place an HP burn debuff on that enemy for 2 turns. That's nice. If it can't be resisted, which we'll see later. If an enemy already has an HP burn debuff, has a 50% chance to instantly activate it instead. 1 faction ally. HP burn debuffs placed by this skill cannot be resisted or blocked. Smooth. 2 faction allies. Each time an HP burn debuff activates on an enemy, this champion gains 5% ignore defense, stacks up to 100%. That right there tells me that I don't want to build any accuracy on this guy. None. I just want him full damage, and this won't be resisted, and that's how that's gonna go. Places a block revive debuff on enemies killed while under an HP burn debuff. Wow, that starts getting crazy. Now, Unity champs are easier to get into play in Classic Arena rather than Live Arena, but I think you can get away with this guy. I think you can make it happen. So let's say you put in Armons, or you put in Odin, and then you put in Vulkanos, put them with some other high-level demon spawn like Kymar, Duchess, or Commodus. They won't know who to kick out. They won't know who to block. I think with the other champs in his faction, you might be able to get away with getting him in live arena. He's one of the first. Many of the other Unity champs you can't because the champs around them are not that strong, but I think you might be able to get him in there. Demolition Burn. This is the A3. Attacks one enemy 2 times. The damage inflicted by this skill increases by 10% for the turns left remaining of any HP burn debuffs on the enemy team. Stacks up to 100%. When have you ever seen an HP burn stack? I think the highest HP burn I've ever seen is like 3 turns. Now 30% damage is still big, but I don't see getting this cap ever. Let's read the Unity skills. Damage received by this champion is decreased by 50% while this skill is not on cooldown. Wow. 2. Faction allies. Each time an HP burn debuff is activated on an enemy has a 50% chance to decrease this skill's cooldown by 1 turn. Nice. If the target is under an HP burn debuff, this attack will ignore Stone Skin, Unkillable, Ally Protection, Block Damage, and Shield buffs. Whoa. That's a skill. Okay, so first of all, this could be your opener to take out somebody major with Stone Skin. And he has the block revive, so they're not coming back. Or you could not use this skill at all and just keep this decreased damage by 50% protection up. Like a secondary passive. That's good. A2 attacks all enemies, places a fear debuff for 2 turns. This debuff cannot be resisted by enemies under a HP burn debuff. Ooh, I like all this cannot be resisted stuff. That's mythical level stuff. A1 attacks one enemy each time this skill is used, permanently increases the damage inflicted by this skill by 10%. That's nice. Stacks up to 100%. Counter attacks with this skill each time an enemy under an HP burn debuff attacks this champion or their allies. That's nice. Okay, so here's the thing. I would not use the A3. I would pretty much stick to the A2 and the A1. Let the passive do its work. Use this move like a second passive. And this dude would just be a monster. Build him full damage, no accuracy. He'd just be super scary. I love this champion. I want this champion. Yeah, I want this dude bad. This is the one for me. On to Arnorn. He's got the dragon heads on the side. I guess it would be only fitting to try to get him, as my name is Dragon Turtle. He kind of gives me the Dragon Turtle vibe. Now, this guy has already been tested out in a bunch of content creators' videos, or they've at least talked about him. I haven't really watched the videos. Since I've been making content creation, I've been watching since I've been doing content creation, I've been watching a lot less of other people's videos. I wish I had time, but I don't. Work, kids, making my own content now. It takes time. So, he has a passive effect. Increases his champion's attack by 5% for each active buff on the enemy team. Stacks up to 100%. This is a strong passive. This is way better than some of the other passives, even the mythical. If you have to kill other champions to get the buff, you're gonna get it a lot less often. This, we're talking about some champions put up 3 buffs per teammate. So we're looking at like 60 attack just like that. You know, 1 CP turn, Duchess going. We're talking about nearly plus 60 attack. 60% attack, sorry. I like that. Prevents this champion's death and keep them alive on 1 HP when hit by a fatal hit. Places a stone skin buff on them for 1 turn. Move over, Freya. This is Freya's passive, but better. Freya keeps them alive on the one hit, but this places stone skin on him after. That's so good. Then instantly activates the Wrath of Hrothgar skill. I'm imagining that's his A3. This will not place the Wrath of Hrothgar skill on cooldown. Hrothgar? I don't know. Come on now. If there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, blah, 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 blah. I like that passive. This dude has like a better version of Frolny's passive with a better version of Freya's passive with a better version of the new fusion Hansel and Gretel's passive. Hansel and Gretel's passive is when one of them dies, they do their A3. He doesn't have to die to do his A3, and it doesn't go on cooldown. Like, he's just got a better passive than all three of them put together. That alone makes him a beast. Let's look at the rest. A3, Wrath of whatever, attacks all enemies, will ignore increased defense, strengthen, and shield buffs. I mean, that's solid. That's solid. That's not, they couldn't make him too overpowered, because if this ignores Stone Skin, or ignores, ally protect, and it just would get crazy. If this attack kills at least one enemy, decreases the turn meter of all enemies by 50%. This effect cannot be resisted. I'm done. That's beautiful. 4 turn cooldown. That's where they put the cooldown up here. That's not typical. But that is beautiful. Attacks one enemy 2 times. The damage inflicted by this skill increases by 10% for each 10% HP this champion has lost. Okay, we don't typically want him to lose HP, but if his passive procs and he's way down there, his A2 skyrockets. If the target is under 2 or more buffs, we'll also ignore 35% of the target's defense. That's easy to achieve. Grants an extra turn if this attack kills an enemy. Arnorn is broken. Arnorn's kit is... Hey, these last 2 legendaries feel like mythical edging. Like, right on the cuff. These are like a legendary's legendary. This dude is going to be pumping out so much damage. Yeah, I like him a lot. Attacks one enemy 2 times with the Shining Cleave. Damage increases by 5% for each buff on the target. Each hit has a 35% chance of placing a stun debuff for 1 turn. Listen. Don't put no accuracy on this man. For this little stun, whatever, forget that. Look, you build him to nuke the socks off the enemy team. You build him with so much damage. He sucks all the damage. That was a strange choice of words. He just make him to nuke in the dirtiest way. That's all. Look, just make him to nuke in the dirtiest way. That's all. Smooth, getting extra turns. Make sure you have somebody to revive him. Make sure you have somebody to heal him up so he can keep doing what he does. Arnorn is dangerous. I don't know. I said the other champ was my most wanted, but now that I've gone through his kit, I'm on the fence. I kind of want them both. The other guy's my most wanted affinity. He's my most wanted boy. We'll just put it that way. Wow, it took me so long to find Nell because it didn't occur to me, especially with this form, that she is in Sylvan Watchers. I mean, I guess now that I look at it, totally thought this was like Demon Spawn or something. That's a weird Sylvan Watcher. All right, let's go through the kit. Whenever an enemy, let me say the name. Blackteeth's Buffet. Whenever an enemy receives a buff, is healed, or has their turn meter increased, places a 5% poison debuff on that enemy for 2 turns. Will ignore block debuffs buffs. Increases this champion's turn meter by 5% for each poison debuff placed. That's nice. I don't know how strong poison is in the arena, which is where I imagine this is most useful, but we'll see. Okay, the A3. Sickle of Corruption. Attacks all enemies, places a 60% decreased defense, 25% weaken. All enemies 2 turns. Fills turn meter of all allies by 20%. 3 turn cooldown, ignores res 20%. You know, ignore res is nice. I'm on this train where it cannot be resisted, it's just better. And we're finding that on a lot of legendaries these days. I guess the more they give, the more I want. It's weird. But this is an incredible skill. It feels legendary-esque to me though. I don't know why, but it feels borderline legendary. Like strong legendary, but legendary. I think, especially with the name Sickle of Corruption, I think this would just go way crazier if there was like a decreased speed on it or a decreased attack instead of this field turn meter. I think that would feel more like a move named Corruption, right? Just corrupts your whole team. But that might be way too overpowered. That might just be insane as a move. They chose what they chose. All in all, this is a great skill. Fantastic skill. A2 steals all buffs from all enemies. I love it. It's not just a buff strip, it actually steals them like Wukong. Big fan. Decreases each target's turn meter by 10%. Decreases each target's turn meter by an additional 5% for each debuff on them. Also instantly activates all poison debuffs on all enemies. That's nice, so this goes with the passive. Then places a sleep debuff for 1 turn on all enemies without poison. Oh, so if she opens with this move, everybody's going to sleep. So she's got a little hint of Kaimar in there, with a little bit of Zavia, with a little bit of Wukong. Okay, each one of her skills I'm starting to see has like 4 different champion skills in it. This is pretty beastie, I love it. So I don't know how the A3 and the A2 go together, but on its own, like, you can pick from a nice assortment of skills based on what you need. A1, Entrapment. Attacks 1 enemy. Steals 10% of the target's turn meter. I love the steal. Steals an additional 5% turn meter for each debuff on the enemy. That's kind of nice. Also has a 75% chance of placing a True Fear debuff for 1 turn. Ignore res plus 15%. That's a nice A1. It's not the strongest A1 in the world, but it is nice. I'm not mad at it. Next form, the Scary Lady. That is just creepy. She's like a praying mantis demon. What's that Mortal Kombat character with all the arms? It starts with a G. Gordon. I see him, I can't remember his name, but he was the final boss on Mortal Kombat way back in the day. Anyway, let's do it. Passive. Whenever this champion kills an enemy using an active skill, grants this champion an extra turn. Each debuff placed by this champion in either form increases this champion's HP, attack, and defense by 2%, stacks up to 50%, and speed by 2, stacks up to 50 in their alternate form. Okay, so question, does it increase her HP, attack, and defense in this form, and then the speed is in the alternate form? Or does it increase all these attributes just in the alternate form, so she has to change back to take advantage? It might not be so bad even if she has to change back, because with these extra turn mechanics, she's probably getting a lot of extra turns. Probably not too hard. Alright, the A3, Feast of Terror level 1. Attacks all enemies, places a True Fear debuff for 2 turns. This debuff cannot be resisted or blocked by enemies. with 50% HP or less. Damage plus 20%. Okay, so here's the smack. This is just the all-out smack. I prefer on the mythicals those hits that are like two hitters, right? If the enemy is 50% HP or less, like Alaz's nuke is cold. I love that. This is one time, so we got to see the multiplier. True Fear is okay. We like True Fear. Not as strong as Stun or other things, but yeah, I guess we got to see how it smacks. If it smacks super hard, then hey, it is what it is. As long as she gets the kill and gets those extra turns, nothing to be mad about. Cut him up. Attacks one enemy 2 times. Deals 100% more damage to enemies under stun, sleep, freeze, provoke, fear, true fear, or petrification. I get it. If the target is killed, instantly activates the Feast of Terror skill. Which one is the Feast of Terror? Oh, I get it now. Attacks all the enemies, right? Now, if she kills someone, anyone, even the nuker, she gets an extra turn. Then she hits with this move. Now, the champions who got hit, if they aren't killed, they probably have True Fear on. So she's gonna do double the damage on this hit. Then, if she kills them, instantly activates this move again. Let me do this for you guys. A3, A2, A3. All as if it were one turn. That's nasty. That's nasty work. Nell is kind of unbelievable, actually. Nell is kind of unbelievable. That is just nasty. The A1 attacks 4 times. Each hit will ignore 30% of the target's defense. Each hit will also decrease target's max HP by 25% of the damage inflicted. If the target is not a boss, also places a shield buff on this champion equal to 25% of the target's max HP. The target's max HP. Does that mean her or does that mean the enemy? I think that's the enemy. You're targeting the enemy. If the target is not a boss, yeah, that's the enemy. So 25% of their max HP. Hey, Nell is nasty. I'm gonna just call her Nasty Nell. This kit is bonkers. I guess the biggest question would be, how do you build her, right? How much accuracy, how much damage? I definitely will put her in arena. Even though she would do great work in PvE, I definitely will build her for the arena. Do we go full nuke to take advantage of that combo? Do we build enough accuracy to take advantage of this stuff? The poisons can be resisted, I think. So she's gonna need the accuracy. True Fear is also gonna need the accuracy. So my thoughts on Nell are, you're gonna have to build her one way or the other, with an emphasis on one or the other. I think you can take advantage of both of them, but you're gonna have to build with an emphasis one way or the other. Either this support style or the attack style. I think you're gonna have to pick one or the other. Either way, she's one of the best champions in the game, straight up. There are very few champions with a kit like this, even in Mythical World. Yeah, there are very few champions with a kit like this. She's one of the best in the game. There are some changes that I would make and things I would add, but I think taking her whole kit into consideration, anything I would add to her, she would probably be way too overpowered. Like, scary good. She's already scary good. She's like Lydia plus Lysandra plus Kymar plus a better version of Horden plus like what else? Plus Mashald plus, I mean, her kit just has so many crazy things in it. What's the one review say? Let's look at this one review. That's funny. All right, you guys, that's all the new champions. We went through them. It's not like you get to pick them out. So if you get one, very cool. I'm gonna be pulling. I really want the Vulkanos guy because he's on 10 times right now. And that's all I have for today. Dragon Turtle and Baby Turtle.